My name is Gabriel Egan and I'm Professor of Shakespeare Studies here at Montfort University in Leicester. Well, the digital humanities is a development of the humanities, which is a subject that's been running for several centuries now. It's a study really of human culture and history, and that study has for a long time been influenced by the technologies that we have for disseminating the written word, in particular the printing press. So some people would date the start of the humanities with, in fact, the invention of the printing press at the end of the Middle Ages. The big news in humanities these days is, of course, computers. And we have ways now of disseminating the human written word and other forms of culture, pictures and sound, with computers. And digital humanities is really the application to this long-standing study of human culture and art and history, the application of these new technologies that allow us to do so much more in spreading the word about what we think is the study of human existence. Well, there are things about Shakespeare's writing that are apparent to an everyday reader. There are things we can all see on the page. But one thing we're starting to learn about writing is that the more we look at it, the more complex it becomes. And there are some aspects of writing that aren't really obvious to any reader, but when you have a machine to start counting certain features of the writing and classifying certain features, we can start with that machine to make discriminations we just couldn't see before. In essence, we can start to get a handle on that very tricky subject of what is a writer's style. So what is Shakespeare's style as it differs from, say, the other writers of his time? When we start to look at anybody's writing with a computer, we can start to count certain features. For example, their favourite words, or words they don't like to use that other people do. And we can also start to count more mundane things like the length of their sentences or the length of their paragraphs. Most recently, people have started to even quantify various styles of poetical writing, for example, various forms of poetical metre. When we do this, we find that some of these aspects of writing are quite distinctive to the person. It turns out that each of us has various habits of writing that we're probably not even conscious of. How often we like to put the word "and" within 5 words of the word "in", or other seemingly meaningless combinations, but that in fact are distinctive of authorship. That is, when you analyse it, you can actually tell whose writing it is, if you have enough of a sample of their other pieces of writing. So one of the interesting developments is we're really starting to get, with digital humanities, a good sense of what a writer's style actually consists of in empirical terms. Well, Shakespeare's writing has been studied a lot. In fact, it's probably the most studied body of writing. But it's only in the last 20 or 30 years that computers have been applied to the problem, and the problem of analysing Shakespeare's texts, particularly because people want to answer questions about his authorship. That is, are there works we haven't realised are by Shakespeare because they were published with nobody's name upon them? And that is in fact turning out to be the case. The new Oxford Shakespeare, which will appear later in 2016, will be presenting to readers for the first time edited texts of plays they would not expect to find in the complete works of Shakespeare, because the general editors, and I am one of them, have discovered that we can really prove now that 1 or 2 works people might have heard of, but not known who wrote them, 1 or 2 works that we can now confidently attribute to Shakespeare. Well, to be able to analyse a writer's style might be thought to somewhat encroach upon the more subjective and artistic aspects of humanities studies. Actually, it doesn't. It really enhances our ability to talk about what is creativity. What is it in the human mind that we are doing when we put words together in a new and pleasing form? So I find it particularly enjoyable that we can start to get a handle on what is the creative human mind, because that is, of course, really at the heart of all traditional humanities study. It's worth remembering, I think, that the very first humanists of the 15th and 16th century were themselves very interested in technology. They were, in fact, at the forefront of the revolution in printing, as a means of bringing their ideas to the widest possible readership. So it's very appropriate, in fact, that digital techniques, our newest form of textual technology, are being applied to the traditional concerns of the humanists, because this is something of a second revolution in how we can use technology to spread across the world the ideas that we have and the ideas that we argue and struggle about regarding what it is to be human, what is human culture, and what is our history. Digital humanities is really just carrying forward the initial aim of the humanists, which is to spread this debate, this process of informed argument about human culture, to take it forward into the 21st century.